o te moana nui a tau. E te kaihanga ki runga rā. Te kaihanga o ngā mea katoa hoko te maha o ngā whakapono me rātua o ngā ara kei wangi nui a mātou ko te whakaaro I rungi a mātou. Pahare ngā ara katoa e muri to aroaro. To the Creator above us all, regardless of the many beliefs and creeds we have amongst us, we can all assume they lead to you. Kia koutou ngā kaitiaki e noho ana kei rungi ngā tini āhua tanga o te tai ao. You, the guardians that watch over every aspect of our environment. Kia koutou hoki ngā tūpone e noho ana kei rungi I tēnā o mātou. To you, the ancestry that sits above each and every one of us at this week. O mai kia mātou kei rungi I ngā āhuatanga o tēnei wāhanga o te tau o te matariki. Tō manaakitanga tō rangi Māori e tango me tō mōhio. Kei rungi I tēnei hui. We ask that you bestow upon us in this hui and a sense of caring, respect, some knowledge of what we're talking about within the realms of this season for Māori, for all of us in Aotearoa, for Matariki. Kia oti tēnei hui, kei roto I era o ngā āhuatanga e mohi o te ana e mātou, o te pono o te tika me taroha tonu I wanginui a mātou. And that we complete this hui with our integrity intact and our relationship stronger than when we began. But e ko tēnei te whakamoimiti kia koe e tō ingoa tapu. E kore e mutu. E kore e ngoi kore. E piki te wairu ki runga rā. Me tiro whakamui ki tūrangi I tua I te Kōpu a Kānapanapa. I te whareranga tiro o te hiru. Nōna te karangatanga ki ona mo pona ruia taitea. Ruia taitea. Te hei nau.
Thank you, Mihi. I now level to thank you, Mihi. I'll now ask Neville to your tato.
Ta Māori e koutou katoa e mihi atu nei hoki ki kia koe a te ngaihe nau e whakarite te huarahi mō tātou hui I tēnei ata. Tēnō pai ki te whakarongo ki tō kōrero tō reo rangatira I tēnei ata no reira he te rangatira tēnā koe. Ka mihi atu hoki a ki te ariki tātou mu te hiuhiu me tōna whare ariki ko te tūmanako o te ngākau ka tūtonu koutou I te taha o te moana nui a tia ki raro I te taumarumaru o koutou tūpuna maunga. Thank you, Te Ngaihe, for your wonderful words this morning in opening our hui with your Karakia and your Mihi. I mihi also to Te Ariki, Tātu Muti Hiuhiu and the Whare Ariki, and I hope they are all well beside the beautiful moana o Taupo Nui a Tia, and beneath the tūpuna maunga that sit beside it. I ngā tōtara haimata e hinga atu rā I runga I tēnā marae o te rohe, a moi maira. To all of those who have died and gone before us, sleep in peace. Ko tēnei te wā o te tau kua taimai te kupunga o Taramainoku, ki ta hau o rātou wairua ki a whetu rangihia koutou. Now is the time of matariki and the harvesting of the souls by Taramainoku, and they will soon become stars in the sky. No reira, a waiho mai mātou e tangi apakura nei mō rātou. We tangi and cry for them, they have now gone. I ngā maunga whakahi, e ngā wai whakakere tani wha, tēnā koutou. To those supreme leaders amongst us today, I greet you. Tēnā koe wiari, koutou ko George, ko Rowan, ko April, tēnā koutou. Ko te koro matua David, tēnā koe, koutou ko ngā kaikaunihira, ko John, ko rua ko Kathy, hoki kei te mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. Nō reira hoko kaore ahau I konei I tēnei rā I tō koutou taha. Ngā mihi mahana hoki ki a koutou katoa. So I greet each and every one of you, members of Tukotahitanga, members, our Mayor, David, and our councillors who are there amongst us today, David and, John and Kathy. And I'm sorry that I can't be with you this morning in person. Also, ngā tangata mātakitaki mai ana e whakarongo mai ana hoki I ronga I te wānanga e Pūrangi, a kei te mihi atu hoki ki a koutou katoa. So for those of you who are watching and listening online, I greet you also. Ko te kaupapa matua o tēnei hui ko te whakaaetanga o te mahere te Kaupapa Kaitiaki. The main point I think of today's hui is the agreement around our plan, te Kaupapa Kaitiaki. And at this time, I tēnei wā kei te mihi atu hoki ki te whakapaukaha o ngā rōpū katoa kua whakatinana a tēnei mahere. Hei painga mo te tai ao mea ngā tangata katoa o te rohe. I greet all of those of you from all the groups who have done all of the work on this plan for the benefit of the environment and all the people of the rohe o taupu. Nō reira te tai o mihi e rere atu nei, that is my greetings flowing to you, the greetings of Waikato Regional Council. Manawa mai e te putanga o Matariki. Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe Neville, tēnā koe mihi mai. Kia tātou. Kia rātou ko wheturangi kia. Nō reira, ka me te mihi kia. I will now call for apologies. We have Rowan Eatman, John Williamson, Stu Husband, and Katarina Hodge. Are there any others? Thank you, David. Is there any? Kia ora. Can I have a move in a second for the agenda, please, that was circulated? I think 22nd of June, yes. Thank you, Kathy. We only? Just a question, was there another meeting? Right, well, after that.
The minutes within the agenda are not the minutes from the previous meeting. I might just get James to talk about that. Thanks, James.
It's from the 2021 meeting. The last meeting was in March.
Okay.
I brought those meetings minutes as well, and I attached them to the last.
Okay. Can we have those tabled formally?
Sure.
And what is the date of those minutes? I think there was some time back in April, was it? March. Monday, the 28th of March. Has everybody present had time to read through those? Oh, so they've been sent out. So I'll just take it that they've been read. Yes.
Correct.
So David has moved those.
I'm happy to second.
We only second. That's the minutes of.
Can I just ask a question? How do we record it in our minutes? Because the agenda went out with the wrong ones. So how do we do that?
I have to just make a notation of the minutes that the previous minutes.
Okay.
With the previous one. Yeah. Yeah.
So we are skipping the minutes of the 28th of March. Be accepted as a record, true correct record of that meeting. And that's been moved and seconded. Disclosures of interest. Does anybody change their interests since the last meeting? Still the same? Okay, we'll take it as there are no changes to that. So confirmation of the previous minutes. We've got a mover and a seconder. So all those in favour that it's true and correct record? Aye. Anybody against? That's moved. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 6. Advancing Māori medium and environmental education. That's a report from Brent Sinclair and Anna Rose Solomon. Anna, kia ora. So would you like to comment on that report?
Tēnā koe te wharenei, tēnā koe kia koe te chair, kia koutou katoa. Te mihi tuatahi ki a koe matua, tō Karakia, hei Whakatau, hei mihi ana, hei whakamahana i a mātai, tō whānau katoa, I roto I te wharenei. Hoki ati ki o koutou whānau te kotahitanga o Ngāti Tuwharetoa Trust whānau mā, nā mihi ki a koutou, whānau katoa. Mai ngā councils katoa. Te mihi kawana hoki ki a mātou mai ngā kāhui ariki. Te moana tauponui ātia hoki te whenua nei o ngā hapu ngā iwi o taupo tuwharetoa. Nā mihi ki a koutou. I te wā tuatahi, before I introduce myself, I'd just like to see Winter's online.
I am.
Kia ora, Brent. Nā mihi ki a koe. And I've just asked Brent as my director to just be present for our kōrana hui today on this wonderful matariki morning. And before I introduce myself, our mahi and ask Brent to mihi to us all and introduce himself. Kia koe, Brent.
I think that's working. Kia ora koutou. Thank you for that welcome. Called Brent Sinclair. I'm the director of the Resource Use Directorate at Te Kaunihiri Rohe o Waikato. I sit on the executive with Neville. Maybe 6 months ago, we went through a little bit of a realignment of functions, and I was really pleased that Anna Rose and her colleagues in our education team have joined the Resource Use Directorate. We're really keen to see how we can have all of our teams work together on this collective mahi, and so the work that Anna Rose as our Kai Hapai Hotaka Matauranga is doing is very important to us. I'm very keen to see how I can best support Anna Rose with this mahi, and very keen to hear your feedback today on how we're progressing with our advancing Māori medium in the environmental education space. So with that, I think probably of more value for you to hear from Anna Rose. So again, thank you for your welcome, and interesting to hear the kōrero today. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe Brent, Mihi ki a koe hara mai nei tēnei hui. Mai se ki a koe hoki Neville, nā mihi ki a koe te rangatira. So kia ora koutou katoa. James, have we got our presentation online? It's much better with a bit of pikitia to go along with the kōrero. I take it that the report is read. Ai, kia ora whānau. So, ko Anna Rose Solomon Banks ahau, e uri ahau mō Tainui Waka, mō Ngāpuhi, te taone nui a Mitimiti, no Ngāti Parau, te taone nui a Tikitiki, mō Ngārawai hoki, te taone nui ki a rātou hoki. Ko tirama waiwai tōku marae, ko taupiri tōku mainga, ko Waikato tōku awa. E noho ana nai nei, kei whangaro i rongi te mainga tapu a kariwai i te taha whangaro. Nā mihi ki a koutou. Ko au te kai hāpai hōtaka mātauranga. My mahi at Regional Council is I am in the education team and resource use and development. Also work alongside Tairanga Whenua with the leadership of Māori and Neville, because my mahi is the portai of advancing Māori medium and advancing mātauranga Māori with our kura and our rangatahi. To me, I feel like I've got the best job in the organisation, so kei aho te mana, me mahi pera. So in this role, it started in 2020, a lot of scoping happened to see what was out there. As you already know, there are 5 iwi in our rohe, and hapu, mini hapu. So for me, it was how are we going to support our far-reaching kura and our rangatahi to be in kaitiaki spaces. Can we see the next slide, please? So, nā mihi ki a koutou te whānau to be able to come a kanohi, be on mō whenua, tautoko i o kaupapa, te kōpu a Kānapanapa vision is there. It really reflects the values and principles of our program, Kura Waiti, River Schools, and Kura Waita, Moana Schools. I don't particularly feel like I should read that to the whānau. Should we have more knowledge on that kaupapa? Many people. Next slide, please. And then koutou rohe. So why is the River Schools, this kaupapa here, and Moana Schools coming to you? So as we see in our region, the one thing that connected all our 5 iwi together, particularly, was our awa. Our awa starting at your mainga ariki, your mainga kahui, tongariro, reapehu, ngauhoi, and with Waikato iti, flowing through to Taupo Nui Atia, flowing through to Waikato Te Awa, right through Tūwharetoa, Raukawa, Maniapoto 3 waterways, attributing riverways, and our whenua out through to Waikato Tainui, through out to the port. Also with our harbours, our West Coast harbours, and our Hauraki area, we have pūrākau that all connect to Waikato Te Awa, our tūpuna awa. So nā mihi ki a koutou. As Māori, we don't see our tūpuna awa as segmented, for want of a better word. She is a one body. She is some say she is the blood veins, and the whenua is the tinana. So all our waterways are connected. So through all our iwi, and starting here at Tūwharetoa, it's really special to be here and providing the opportunity of the river schools. Te turi whai mana, the vision and strategy, to protect and restore the health and well-being of our tūpuna awa through all our different iwi and hapu, reflects how we protect and restore our mātauranga of each hapu and our rangatahi as kaitiaki. This is our regional council kaupapa, so significantly the river schools and Moana schools obviously are centrally based around water. the health and well-being of the water and the connection of the narratives to each of our people. So if we look at those strategic priorities, water, coastal, biodiversity, Indigenous, and climate change is woven through the PO and Kura Waiti. There are 2 PO in Advancing Māori Medium Program. Kura Waiti, which was given by Hōtiro Kū, the ingoa, and Kura Waita, freshwater, river, saltwater moana. The 2 working programs. Who leads the Kura Waiti program that we have commissioned? We've been very fortunate to have Hōtiro Kū, Kū and his whānau lead this program. They're Māori. We wanted Māori by Māori for Māori. We wanted Aukura graduates of Kura and the use of the te reo o te taiao. And in this way, Hōtiro and his whānau education team are very experienced in translating and transferring, teaching our rangatahi how to transfer the knowledge they learn in this program when they go back to their hapu and their marae and their kura. Me haere. Ki he ni pātai mai. So anei te wā, it's really important to us, our tūwhari tō whānau, Waikato iti. I was on the tirohoi with Waikato Tainui, and we always start at Waikato iti. We didn't stay here this time because of the COVID restrictions. And no, we don't know Waikato iti. This is where we want our tamariki to learn all about the awa, where she starts, the meaning of the pūrākau, so they can carry on being kaitiaki, interested in the engineering and science. Another connection we have as the river schools in the Waikato area is taupiri. So taupiri and tongariro, our narratives, our pūrākau, our connection that we have to our whānau here, we value in Waikato as well. So we had a trial of the river schools for a year. And here we are at Taupiri launching the trial and having Karakia in the system of Tongariro. When the tamariki of the kura come to the program, Kura Waiti, this is 2 kura here, they learn the traditional knowledge of the waka. They learn the traditional pūrākau, the mātauranga Māori of parts of the area from the hapu of the parts of the river. That's all delivered in te reo Māori. They learn the science. It's quite an interesting thing to divide the science in the mātauranga. Kei aho they're 1 and 1, but just to explain it, they learn the quality of the river. They learn the engineering of the bridges. They learn the pūrākau of that comes from the people that are living alongside. We're taking the tamariki out of the schools and putting them into the awa and into the moana as their classroom, as their learning environment, to see, to smell, to hear, to taste, to feel the learning. Thank you, James. It's a graduation period. They start in Whakatiti, which is a 14-man crew. They learn the karakia, the haka, the chants, and also learn about the Indigenous ko, the Indigenous kai. They will be catching a fish. They'll be learning how to do that. They'll be learning how to gut it, to eat it, all those parts in te reo. They'll be taught by the raukura, which are the graduates of kura. Then they go into the Whakatau, and they have the opportunity to experience Whakatau and the meaning behind Whakatau. Then they go up to the Wakahaurua, to the sailing boats. I'm not too sure if the Wakahaurua have been here out on Kōpu Nuiatia, Aroha Mai, but that's sort of a card that we're thinking of. None at the moment, Matua. Okay, Kaupai. So that's maybe one of the opportunities that our young people here in Taupo are now being able to learn about those mātauranga and its graduating years along with science, technology, engineering, maths. They also learn the navigational, traditional navigations. Thank you. It's a ripple effect for whānau. So we don't only are thinking about now, we're thinking 80 years back, 100 years back. So they go to Kura, and down in the corner there is our environmental scientist, Aroha Salu. She's been to uni, she's water testing monitor, environmental scientist now. She's been able to deliver to the students all in Te Reo how to test and how to monitor. That is the goal, to get our students into careers around environmental science. So that's what it kind of looks like. We also have internships. This is our Jazz Pūrere, WRA, Waikato River Authority, the University of Waikato Fund River interns. Students come into the river schools and support the program for the rangatahi. Nice, fresh, young faces. And there's the river, Waikato River Authority, with our river interns. So the idea is, if you can imagine dropping a pebble into water and it ripples out, that is the framework for river schools for Kurawaiti and Moana schools. The water in the middle, protecting water, the river schools Moana and the next ripple, the interns and the graduates on the next ripple, and the marae and the whānau on the outer ripple, guiding the strategic process. Kia ora. So ngā mihi, thank you all for your time. Thank you for listening and thank you for the invitation to be here. Ngā mihi kia koutou, kia koutou maunga o tōwhunui hoki. For us, it was an opportunity to share the Kurawaiti and Kurawaita River Moana schools, and it's currently full, or it filled up within 24 hours, all the kura once they heard over into the program. But we for next year, our kura here and our marae are interested, most welcome to come and register and join in on the program. Kia ora rangatahi, e tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou ngā mihi kia koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Anna. Thank you for that. It was very enlightening, and it's something that I think is most powerful in terms of reviving the knowledge and directing our people, particularly the young people, into being kaitiaki of their taonga te puiho. So we congratulate you on that program, and I think it's something that will spread right back into Waikato Iti and up to the Mana, so that we can join you in that journey. So yeah, we'll want you to keep us posted on it.
Kia ora.
Aye.
Aye. Tēnā koe ngā mihi.
So could I have a mover and a seconder for the report next? Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, Kathy. Kia ora.
I was going to carry on with questions.
Kia ora. Lovely to have you here. That's exciting, wonderful program that you're running there.
I just, sorry, just where you mentioned down this part of the Roddy, that the possibility that the local kuras here to get involved. Sometimes they're also the northern part or the southern part, whatever you call it. So have you actively been to our kura and promoted that?
I met, kia ora. Hai tira kātai. I met with Waitahanui's Tumuaki some time back and had a kōrero with one of the Taiao education people from here, and a young lady, beautiful rangatahi, had just come out of the university ko wariwari tōna ingoa I tēnei wā. And it was really exciting to be able to share the kaupapa. But just to, one thing Hoturo said to me was, Anna Rose, make sure you go to the people always first and foremost, before you go stepping into their kura spaces. So under that respect is why I'm here to share with our whānau from Te Kotahitanga Te Wātuatahi. I talked with the kura and left that with them. And they're very excited, particularly around the internship rangatahi area. They were super excited about that space. Yeah, and then how it could look for in their kura. But we're quite particularly excited about the intern space.
Yeah. So, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I do visit those kuras, so I'll get the opportunity to promote them.
Thank you.
As well. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to say I absolutely understand your corridor around you having the best job in the world. I used to write educational resources for educational publishers, and I just absolutely loved it. So Anna Rose, I completely get where you're coming from. This sounds like a really fabulous initiative. I just have some practical questions around it. One of them is just, I'm not aware of any of the Waikato regional councillors having had any kind of presentation on this yet. Is that something that's coming either through my environmental performance committee or through strategy and policy? Because I think the other councillors would really like to know about it. And I also had written down, just because of Enviro schools, have we got any connection with Enviro schools? Is this something that we are trying to get some alignment with as well, in the sense that maybe some of those rangatahi may be interested in absolutely doing this as well? I don't know. Just wanted to know that as well. And also my other question was just in connection with the Lake Taupo Protection Project. I know we've talked in the past about wanting to make sure that the story of what happened in terms of the collaboration around the Lake Taupo Protection Project, that found an educational pathway. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you considered including within this teaching.
Kia ora, nā mahi ki a koe, he pai tō pātai hoki. But te pātai tuatahi, for the first question, I presented to the Waikato Tainui co-governance meeting with a really great response and the feedback and feed forward about ways how to support this kaupapa with the councillors in that. I'm hoping to get to the environmental performance committee. I believe I am on that list shortly. And with ELT, our team has 4 others. One is Mishwela, who's in the youth, one's in waste circular, and Enviro schools with Michelle. So hopefully I'm after Mishwela and the youth to get to the ELT councillors' presentation. Yeah, and te rātu pātou.
The Lake Taupo Protection Project, whether learning about that is something that maybe could be included.
Absolutely. For us, it's about what would you like and how can we fit around what's happening in the lake, in that project there, and how can we support that. So we definitely go what's happening in iwi areas. What we're doing is how can these tamariki be involved in that and learn from the project that we're running and working collaboratively together. For Enviro schools, the reason this mahi came about and this role came about, there were 147 at the time in Commission for Education report. We identified, and Kapai Regional Council, around our Māori medium weren't being addressed. So 147 kura English medium were getting a virus course, but kura weren't. So there was something that needed to be addressed. Regional councils saw the gap and they've tried to fulfil that with this position here. So hopefully once we are able to firstly reach our kura, we can reach out to absolutely bring our English medium and enviro schools in. At the time, we tried to share the conversations with the facilitators of enviro schools.
Okay, and did you get really good feedback from them about?
Oh yeah, they really want to be a part of it. It's actually having to be a bit like this at the moment to other schools till we can reach our kura and our far-reaching schools. There's some kura that really don't get many opportunities because of their long distance. So we're trying to reach them as well. And then once we're able to do that, we can reach out to the other kura.
Thank you, Anna Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tinahi.
Tūtahi e mihi tēnei kia koe mō te rohe o te report. Thank you for wonderful presentation. He pātai. From the source of Waikato iti, from the spring puta te ora, to the southern end of Lake Taupo, those waterways that were once known as Waikato and now called the Tongariro River, they are under the guardianship and mana whenua of, at the source, Ngāti he Kairo ki Tongariro. Further down, old hapu that don't exist but have been encompassed by Ngāti Karakia and Ngāti Tūrangi Tupua, and association to that area to a lesser extent, but still association with Ngāti Rongai and Ngāti Hine. Can we have a conversation at some time about opening some access ways potential for some of our rangatahi to participate? Many of the rangatahi at the source end of the river occupy what would be called rural decile 1 community. But they have been part of the Waka journey, and Waka has been sourced from that area to go to Rapa Nui to do with the Waka voyages with Nainoa Thompson from Hawaii, Heck Busby. So there's a little irony there that Tōpara has gone from that area to supply Waka Haua. So it would be good, and I love the kaupapa, so thank you. But we'll catch you.
Nā mihi ki a koe tō tomo ki a mātou. Yes, definitely.
Kia ora Tinahi, we have April. Kia ora April.
Kia ora, tēnā koe George, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, tēnā koe Anna Rose I tō kōrero. Just maybe 3 questions. The first one is, how many kura in Aotearoa could be included in the net of this kaupapa? Do you know how many?
Tēnā koe, kei a koutou te mana. So, however the kura can manage that really, each kura do it differently. Some currently we have 7 kura. So if it looked like the kura here want to come on, they could bring in 10 rangatahi perhaps for each kura, or they could cluster in as tūwhare tō, and they, like Matua was saying, at the south end. That way they could, up to the kura, maybe want to send 2 from each, or whatever number they want to do, and bring them on the program. Kei a koutou. It's probably more the mechanics of what suits kura.
Kia ora. Kia ora. And my other question was about, because you talked about how I may have misheard you, but I think I heard you say that the program is full at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, unfortunate. 24 hours at full done.
Okay. So so how do you expand the program so that you can include more kura and more tauira?
So next year we have a waiting list for the next kura who want to come on. There's room if two whareto want to come on. We'll put the kura on the program. At the moment, we're having conversations with councils, iwi organisations, district councils that may want to come in and see the need, as since we're servicing the kura in their areas and support the program.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose I'll ask a more direct question. What do you need to be able to expand the program?
It'll be really great on the big Christmas wish list, if I should put it that way, would be the support of a funding position as well. And the council are happy to be in that space. We've talked with, I think it's South Kōpu, South Waikato. Other three councils have been really keen to come in and support. Be good to have that funding space to be able to reach. There are 22 kura in the whole of the region.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora. Before, I didn't want to cut the questions off. I was just going to receive the document and then open it up for kōrero. But the kōrero has been fantastic. I think there have been some very good questions asked, and we certainly have support to embrace that program.
Okay.
So I guess the $1 million question is around how to expand and where the funding sources might be. Could you give us an indication of where you think the key funding sources would be and how we could help you?
I'm thinking within our district councils, perhaps. I know there's a funding space for environmental education programs. I'm not particularly that keen to I might put in this with my treachery. From our iwi, more of a partnership and a space with iwi. Again, we're looking at Waikato River Authority to be able to support. We're putting an application in there. They're very interested in the program, recognising that they can reach all areas. I'm not sure if it goes this far. Okay. And other agencies and areas that we're looking at.
Okay, I think that's something that's worth exploring further. And maybe we'll have a conversation about that and how you get that moving. Because the program is something that we must embrace. We can adopt immediately if we can answer the questions that April asked. So I think that's key to this. Because the other thing that we find is that even a program like Kaupapa Kaitiaki, the high-level plan that we're developing now as this organisation is responsible for, there is a huge element of, or an educational element in this program. And, you know, we're launching this in the middle of people learning about this place. And it's not a good thing. But we have to do it, so we are doing it. But, you know, if there was a foundation built up in the community, knowledge around these programs, it would make it a lot easier to understand. And I think for people to learn what the benefits of this is. So, yeah, thank you for that presentation. That's a fantastic program. And we can only wish you well, but any way we can help, we'll talk about that later.
Kia ora, ngā mihi. Thank you for your tautoko, ngā mihi whānau.
Chair, so I move that it be received. Thank you. David seconds. So the next one is can we have a vote on that? All those in favour? Anybody against? Let's move. Thank you. Next one is the Waikato Dynamic Models Project. Page 13 of your agenda. And Mike Scarsbrook will present on this. Kia ora, Mike.
Tēnā koutou, ko Mike Scarsbrook tōku ingoa. I'm the Science Manager at Waikato Regional Council. Thanks for giving me some time today to talk about a significant project for the Waikato catchment. I'll just share my screen if that's all right. I've got a few slides. Can folks see the slide on the screen okay? Kia ora. So this project we're just getting underway with is a significant project for, as I say, for the Waikato catchment. It's been quite a while in the gestation. We're moving into sort of active work on this project after quite a long period. I'll just highlight the range of partners that we have on the project already, and also the vision, and just checking that screen has changed all right. Yep, looks like I can just see it. I'll make it out on the corner of the screen in the room. So the overall vision for the project is that sort of following on or basing it very much on Te Ture Whaimana is that our collective responsibility for restoring and protecting the health and well-being of the Waikato and Waipa rivers is enabled through a shared set of co-developed water quantity and water quality models. I've highlighted a number of the partners there who are already indicating that they want to be involved in the project, either directly with direct co-funding or in-kind funding as well. We've got I guess a project lead team which is made up of Waikato River Authority, WRC, University of Waikato and NIWA, and really Waikato River Authority has been a key driver of this project since its inception, working with NIWA and funding NIWA to develop the ideas behind this project. This is the first co-governance committee that will be presenting the project to. We recognise it's important to keep everyone informed of how this project progresses over the next 3 to 5 years, because, as I say, it's a significant project for the Waikato catchment. The project was conceived, I guess, 5 years or more ago, and as I say, WRA was a key supporter of the project right from its inception, and WRC has also been supportive right the way through. We're at a point now in 2022 where, having done all the scoping work and identified a scope of works which is achievable, that we're now getting into developing the partnerships and just sourcing the funding to make things happen. Some of the overarching principles for the project is that the health and well-being of the river be at the forefront. And I guess when I talk, and this was highlighted earlier on by our chair, was, you know, we do have the Waikato catchment we have to consider it as from the headwaters and Rurupehu all the way to the sea. It's a very, very large, very complex catchment, and I guess we see a real need for modelling tools to help us understand and make some of that complexity more simple for us to understand, and also for us to be able to predict future states, particularly given the amount of funding that's going into restoring and protecting the river. We're very much looking at a collaborative approach, so getting multiple organisations bringing their best minds together to work on this. There's a fundamental principle of the modelling tools being able to be used at different levels by a range of people, and that it be open source, so it's not proprietary, it's not captured by any one organisation. An important component that River Iwi fed back to us in earlier workshops was around the need to build capacity and train people in the use of these tools, so it doesn't become simply a set of tools that only a very few scientists and CRIs or universities can use, that we can actually build capacity across the region. There's some operational stuff in here around data collection and hosting, and WRC's sort of looking into how we can very much support that. Obviously River Iwi involvement at multiple levels, so we've had a number of hui with iwi representatives through the scoping and prioritisation phases, and now, as I say, we're looking to keep the co-governance committees updated on how the project progresses. WRA is also really keen to have the modelling and the model outputs link back to the report card toda that many of you will be aware of, and also the restoration objectives for the river. Strong governance will be really important, and I'll talk about the structure of the project a wee bit later, and I guess an overall sense that we want this to be aiming for an excellence. It's a significant project, long-term project, and we want it to be sort of fit for purpose, but also aspirational. This slide just breaks down the 6 main components of the project. So we've identified a range of modelling tools that we need, and this is not starting from scratch. Obviously, there's quite a bit of, or a lot of work that's already gone on already into river modelling, lake modelling. So, for example, the reservoir water quality, we know that Mercury has been investing quite significantly in modelling their reservoirs along the river, the hydroelectric reservoirs. We've been doing quite a bit of work with NIWA in Lake Taupo, particularly around evaporation rates from the lake, which affects the availability of water right through the lake system, and we presented that information, I think, at Councillor White's, one of Councillor White's Environmental Performance Committee meetings earlier in the year. So a lot of work to go into this. Where we would like to start is around water availability and allocation. So having a strong water quantity modelling base, a strong understanding of the water quantity along the river, the whole of the catchment, is really important as a base for the modelling. And part of that will be to look at allocation or sort of water accounting for the Waikato, and we've been doing some work also around water security, which will sort of feed into that as well. And I just thought I'd highlight again the down the bottom around building capacity and capability across the region to utilise these modelling tools. So that's an important aspect. Just to finish on this last slide, which is really the proposed organisation. So we have a group of partners and sponsors, so those who we would expect to contribute funding and or expertise or data so either direct funding or in-kind funding. And we recently had a workshop with those potential partners just to confirm their interest. Waipa District Council has also indicated they're interested. I've included a box there around central government, so MB, MPI and MFE as potential co-funders. We sort of estimate we need about $4 million to complete those first 6 components over the next 3 to 5 years. We think a significant part of that can come from the project partners, but we're realistic in that to complete the work we're likely to need some central government input, which is why having a strong sort of set of partners and obviously a strong governance group will help us in getting that funding from central government. The governance group would be represented by sponsor representatives and also River Iwi representatives and a co-governance group for the project. And then there'll be a range of provision projects that come out of that, led by different provider organisations, whether that be NIWA or University of Waikato or others. And then obviously needing to continue to let everyone know what's going on and how the project's progressing. So really the next steps is around formalising the project partners through an MOU or similar instrument, and then we're likely to have some initial funding indicated from WRC and WRA to get underway, and that'll be a significant task to bring the funding together from any sources where we can find that funding. So I'll leave it there. Kia ora, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mike. I'll open up for questions now.
Kia ora, Mike. Thanks very much for presenting this. And I think it sounds like a great project, a great co-governance project. My questions actually just are around the inclusion of the Nature Conservancy as a partner on the project. I'm just aware of the fact that there's been quite a lot of controversy around the Nature Conservancy. So this is a big international environmental organisation that had quite a lot of complaints about 3 years ago to do with corporate funding, undisclosed donations, and also maltreatment and discrimination against staff. There's quite a lot of information online about this. So I guess my question is just why have we included the Nature Conservancy? So, you know, have they been identified for a particular reason? Were you aware of these issues with the Nature Conservancy in the press, and have they been resolved? And also, you know, did we consider anyone else? I'm just wondering, I'm assuming we've identified them because of the funding issue, because, you know, they are very good at actually getting funding for projects. So look, I just wondered if you could address those issues for me, because I'd just like to know that they've been resolved.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor White. I wasn't aware of those previous issues around the Nature Conservancy. I had done some work with them in the past, but yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. I will definitely have a look into that. The primary reason the Nature Conservancy was included in the recent workshop we had with potential partners, primarily because a WRC staff member has recently moved across to the Nature Conservancy to be their Waikato-based person, and both ourselves and WRA thought it would be useful to have that person at the workshop. Subsequently, they've provided linkages to some of the catchment management tools that Nature Conservancy has been involved with around the world. So there is potential value for us in understanding some of the catchments where they have worked right across the globe. So yeah, thank you very much for raising that, Councillor White, and I'll definitely look into that. And you know, at the moment we haven't signed anything, we haven't made any firm commitments. So yeah, very useful to have that feedback. Thank you.
I'll send you the links to the information that I've seen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Now, April.
Tēnā koe, Mike.
Tēnā koe.
Ko April Bennett tēnei. I have a question from the document that was included in our agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So under students and building capacity, you say that we will also be looking to enhance iwi capability and capacity and modelling in the process. A budget of 450k is suggested for 2 PhD students. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about what you've been discussing in terms of enhancing iwi capability and capacity and modelling in the process.
Well, yeah, still very early days, April, but the idea is that we would identify some PhD students who could undertake and help build some of the modelling tools. So that would be through the University of Waikato, and where possible, have those students with iwi connections or linkages. That's not the only area of building capacity and capability. So that would be more at the helping build the model. So we're actually training new catchment modelers who tend to be quite a rare animal. What we're also looking to do is build capacity and capability through sort of use of some of the front end modelling tools, some of the scenario analysis tools that would come out of this. So there's opportunities for building capacity at different levels, not just the PhD student level.
Right, because so the 450k that you're suggesting or proposing isn't just for the two PhD students.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe.
Thank you. Back to Kathy. No.
No, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. I have a couple of questions. First one, Mike, is I noticed in your report that the initial project started in about 2018 and that there was a review of the priorities. And I'm just wondering what the outcomes of that review were and where Lake Taupo sits in that review. Because, I mean, you know, Te Kōpu Kānapanapa, we are looking at Lake Taupo catchment, which starts at basically at the upper Waikato, almost at the end of the Waikato, or the start of it, and right back through to the Maunga. So if we are looking at, you know, my Utakitai, as you have mentioned, obviously we are focused on what happens in that space. So I'm just wondering where Lake Taupo, and I recall there was a 3D model for Lake Taupo and other things, and where Lake Taupo sits in your order of priority in terms of the objectives and the tools that you are developing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you. So the original scoping identified, I think, 13 different modelling components, and I think a more detailed modelling of Lake Taupo was included in that initial scoping. Then following the review and prioritisation, where it was recognised we weren't likely to be able to undertake all of 13 of those components, and certainly not be able to find the funding to do all 13 in the next 3 to 5 years. So there was a prioritisation process done to reduce it down to those 5 modelling components, and then the other sort of operational matters. So in that's very much sort of the whole thing. Those 5 modelling components are very much thinking about the whole of the Waikato catchment, from the upper Waikato stream on the flanks of Mount Ruapehu all the way to the outflow of Waikato River into the Tasman. So it's looking at that whole catchment. So I think there is, you're quite right to ask the question about, is there going to be specific pieces of work done that will have direct value to your management of Lake Taupo and the upper catchments? I think the answer to that is, I mean, it'll be a catchment model for the whole of the catchment, and yeah, I think there'll still be some gaps, which I would suggest your committee might want to sort of have a look at more detail and ask perhaps for some additional work to be done. What I can do is, if it would be of interest, is share the prioritisation outputs, just to explain why those that 13 model components were cut down to just 5.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably something that we'd like to talk about with you further.
Okay.
The other question related mainly to, I guess, your conversations with Ngāti Tūwhareto. It's important that you do tie up with Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwhareto, because they represent the 26 hapu of Ngāti Tūwhareto, and those hapu direct Te Kotahitanga on their priorities. And each one of those hapu is affiliated with a water body or several water bodies. And I think if you're developing tools that will enable management to be a lot more efficient, they'd like to be in on that picture, similarly to the River Iwi for the Waikato. So
absolutely.
Again, it's developing that picture, making sure there aren't any gaps that might befuddle the progress of the management going forward.
Very good. So your guidance, Chair, I'm taking is to communicate directly with Te Kotahitanga or Tūwharetua. Thank you. I'll take that advice and work with our folk to let them know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any more questions? Mihi.
Again, thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Chair. I'm just reinforcing what's been expressed by the Chair. Ngāti Tūparatō settlement was to reach back into the past to find our way forward, to go forward into the future. Part of that reaching back into the past was to restore, if that's a word, our traditional structure of hapu governance. And so embedded into our legislation is that all our decisions are driven by hapu at place. And we make those decisions in as close to real time, information in, information out on a monthly basis, and in between those hui on a daily basis as hapu need. For things like kaitiakitanga, rangatiratanga, and manakitanga. And communication in this space is, I can't underestimate how much that, express how much that should never be underestimated.
Mm.
An example of a lack of communication is that the source of Waikato Puta Te Ora, which are on at Onetapu, on the slopes of Tongariro, the local hapu turned up to see quite a significant pou there and evidence of quite a bit of research happening and some material evidence of ongoing research. So the hapu responded to that as they were knocked on the front door. That stuff disappeared into the wilderness of the Tongariro National Park. And it's because of a simple thing, like not seeing the people at place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you tonight. I don't think there's any more discussions. So thank you, Mike, for your report. And I have my mover, Riari, just seconder, Kathy. And all those in favour? Aye. Against? Okay, that's been moved, that we receive that report. Next we have the report. So Marley is going to present that. Thank you, Marley.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā raurangatirama, tēnā koutou. E te kai whakarite, tēnā koe. Kua tai mai nei I tēnei rā, tēnā koutou katoa. Hey, financial reporting, not as exciting as the first two kaupapa that you've heard about this morning. Kioi anō, it's an important kaupapa. It's a standing item. We bring it to you each time we meet as an opportunity for you to have an overview of where we're at financially. I'll quickly skip through some of the most important information and then answer any questions. I think this is relatively straightforward. As you know, there has been an allocation of $400,000 from the Crown to support your mahi. We track costs as we go along and report it to the committee. Typically, I have a couple of slides up that show the diagrams from within the agenda and the report, but I'm unable to share with you today because I can't hook onto the internet, aroha mai. Starting first though with the overview of costs accumulated to the 31st of May. We have a balance of funds of $405,000 or thereabouts. 194,000 approximately has been accumulated so far. So those are your costs to date. And there is a remaining balance of $210,000. Look, we also report against project milestones. And as you can see, we're tracking ahead when we compare where we're at with regard to developing Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki with expenditure. So that's good news. It gives us the confidence that we will deliver Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki within the $400,000 envelope. Lastly, we also track a breakdown of costs per organisation. That detail is in the report. I won't repeat it. And once Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki is finalised, it will be your job, the Joint Committee, Te Kōpua Kānapanapa, to determine what you'll do with regard to reimbursement of costs. So that decision will come in time. I'll leave it there and ask that you receive the report and take any questions. Kia ora.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Just going to move it for you, Steve.
No, just thank you, Marlon. We've got a draft document here today, so it's was Mahi done. So well done. Costs. So many times I sit in this forum with this offer, with this chamber here, and the officer has delivered to us. So well done, well trained. Thank you. And thank you to District Council staff as well.
Mihi.
I see we're the cheapest possible. So no, good. Happy to take them to reality.
Thank you, Marley, for your report. Council might be the cheapest, but it doesn't reflect the value. Huge value. With that, I'd like to just acknowledge the work that Sue has done in her contribution to this document and to our knowledge of the systems that particularly the council operates by, along with Nick. It's been a great learning process for some of us, but it's seen its effect in the document itself. Incredibly helpful. Also, I'd just like to acknowledge Michael Carey. Michael's departed to greener pastures, I hear, but Mike also for his contribution, and he's good with the whip. Stokes is all along, gets things moving, so part of his output is due to Mike's continually reminding us that we had to do things. So, actually, I'm not sure where.
Danielle.
Yes. So, Danielle, welcome.
Just trying to hide.
So, we've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour of receiving the financial report, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Nobody against. So we'll move that. Next report. Excuse me, I'm turning papers on my desk. Oh, this is the big one. Approval of the draft Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki for public consultation. So we've got a draft in front of us. It looks a lot better in hard copy.
Yes, Chair, just before you start on the report, I'd also like to acknowledge Tutahanga's services input to the result that we have today also. That to be acknowledged.
Yep. So I guess as Chairman, I just want to thank the whole working party, Māori. We acknowledge those who have left, but those who have remained behind and the workforce behind this. It's been an incredible effort, and I think we've got a really quality document. So thank you for that, all your contributions from Whakatau, from regional council, from district council, and anybody else that's been involved. So do we have any leading comments? Kathy?
I mentioned this to you, Marley, in another meeting, and that was just around the fact that we talk in the document about it being a high-level plan for the total catchment. But do we say anywhere what we're doing in terms of an implementation plan, and who is going to be doing that? I think it would be a useful thing to explain to people.
Yeah. Thank you for your pātai, Kathy. It was certainly a key theme that came through in early engagement, and it is certainly something that we intend to cover off in a presentation. If you'd like us to deliver a presentation this morning, I'm happy to be guided by the committee how much detail you want us to go into. We've certainly prepared a presentation so we can address all the key points that we think are important to highlight. What would you like us to do?
Actually, Mark, I think you should do the presentation. You know, even though we've read through it, it would be good to go through as a team and look at the presentation itself.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Marley.
Bye. And so I will do a bit of a tag team alongside Tutahanга. Tutahanga, if you wouldn't mind sharing the presentation at your end, Ehua, that would be really helpful. So I'll just cover off the context and the process, and then Tutahanga will dive into a bit of detail with regard to what's within the plan itself. None of this is news to you. You've had all this information before. Today we'd just like to pull it all together and package it to remind you what we've done so far and where we're at, and answer off those key points like the one that Councillor White has just raised.
Just before you start,
yep.
And just so I don't forget at the end, one of the things that I'm aware of is that your co-chairs are your spokesman under our constitution. So I think once this hits the public, there's going to be some interest in the media, and I'm terrible at writing anything for the media, so I want to leave that to you guys. If you could have something here and get a degree of authorisation around it.
Yeah, that's really relevant for what we're doing today because it is a key milestone, and once the plan is adopted, we will be, I guess, communicating in all types of forums and, you know, in different tactics and materials to do that, including what we would typically do, a media release. And of course, we've got a policy for Te Kōpua Kānapanapa, which means that our co-chairs are the spokespeople for any mahi that is generated from the joint committee. And so I was thinking about that just last night, co-chair, media release. And so we'll get something to our co-chairs either today or tomorrow to review before it is promoted widely. Ka pai?
Thank you, Marty.
behind that. The committee members have, if we could have the delegated authority to press release. Would you like us to show it? Are you happy with us to go ahead? Yeah. Well, we'll do it anyway. Yeah. So Marty, to the whole committee with the draft press release, we could.
Couple. Happy to do that. Hey, it looks like Tūtahanga has had some technical difficulty because there's no presentation and there's no Tūtahanga either. So, no, that's fine. I'll just talk through without the presentation. Kate Pai, I'm sure Tūtahanga will do his best to join us when he can. So just a reminder about what we're dealing with specifically today. We will provide you with supporting information about the development of Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki so that you can confidently approve it for adoption for public consultation. So just a reminder about the context. Ngāti Tū Wharetoa received the treaty settlement back in 2018, and it comes along with a number of obligations. The two that are relevant for this group are the requirement to establish a joint committee, yourselves, Te Kōpua Kānapanapa, membership from the Regional Council, the District Council and Te Kotahitanga, but also to develop up Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki, the strategic document for this rohe. So what have we done to date to get the plan to the point of where it's at? Well, to begin with, we established a working group of staff from all three organisations. And thank you for the acknowledgements given this morning for all those involved. And we've got almost the whole team here today. So I personally, as well, from a staff perspective, just wanted to acknowledge the amazing work from Taupo District Council, the Regional Council and Te Kotahitanga. We certainly have managed to deliver something pretty special in this collaboration together, something we can all be proud of. And so through the working group, a lot of work has been generated. To begin with, rather than recreate, I guess, or recover ground that had already been covered, we undertook a review of existing documents within the taupo rohe, statutory and non-statutory documents to identify what the issues were. This included a review of the settlement deed and other treaty documents, because there was a wealth of knowledge to be gained and gathered from those documents from Ngāti Tū Wharetoa, because Ngāti Tū Wharetoa had already expressed in great detail important history from their perspective, but also their perspectives. This then led to and informed the development of the vision, the values, objectives and outcomes, which is really the key to Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki, along with special framework, which Tūtahanga will talk about a little bit more. This was all outlined within a discussion document, and you, Te Kōpua Kānapanapa, gave us the green light to go out and have some discussions with key stakeholders within the rohe, but also outside the rohe. For example, other iwi along the river. We've talked about in every kaupapa today the catchment, the whole of catchment. And whilst, you know, the focus for this committee is the taupo rohe, it is well acknowledged that, of course, it's part of a bigger system. And so our engagement has reflected that. The feedback that we've gathered in the early consultation is reflected within the draft Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki. And that draft, which is in the agenda today, has been circulated with the key stakeholders, so that they too could see that the feedback that we've received through early consultation, and also how we've reflected that in the plan. So through this engagement and the development of the plan, you should have great confidence that this document reflects not just the aspirations of those around the table and Ngāti Tūwharetoa, but the whole community. Okay, so that's our process to date, and I see Tūtahanga is back online, and so at this stage I'll hand over to Tūtahanga to talk more about what's within the plan itself. Tūtahanga, e hoa, over to you. You're on mute, Tūtahanga. Tūtahanga, can you, are you there?
You're there.
Aroha mai, e te whānau. I lost my connection when I went to share my screen, so I've had to reboot. So e aku rangatira tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou. E ngā tia tangata o te komiti tēnā kōrua, te kaiwhakarite o te wā, te ngaihe tēnā koe, te kai kōrero whakamihi a Neville tēnā koe. Huri no ngā manukura o te komiti me ngā kaimahi o ngā kaunihira me te kotahitanga. Nei rā te mihi atu ki a koutou. I wanted to take you through the presentation, but I'm just having trouble picking that up at the moment. So I wanted to follow on from what Mali has talked about with what we've done to date in terms of the process. So we've just finished our second round of feedback to key stakeholders. We had a first round at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of last year, and we've just finished the second round. There were a number of themes that came through that. Hopefully I can get the presentation going for you.
So if you want to carry on with your kōrero, I'll try and put the presentation up at my end. Give you one less thing to manage at your end, e hoa. So leave the presentation to me, I'll figure that out.
Okay. So part of the feedback that we received, well, let me go through Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki. We presented previously, and I know that you've read the document. One of the key elements of the document is the use of ngā pau e toru and he kapua whakapipi. Those two frameworks create the tikanga-based approach that we're using for the catchment plan. Ngā pau e toru, 3 pillars, tongariro te maunga, This encapsulates the mana whakahaere, the enduring authority and control of Ngāti Tuwharetoa over themselves and their rohe, to apply a holistic and integrated catchment management approach. Te mātāpuna o te wai, te ahi tāmau. The second pillar talks about the well-being of lakes, waterways, geothermal resources and the surrounding environment. And the third po, tuwharetoa te iwi, tuwharetoa te hapu, speaks of the social development and economic prosperity of tuwharetoa, as well as the environmental, cultural, spiritual health and well-being of the Taupō catchment. Te kaupapa whakapipi sets the vision and desired outcomes of te ariki and te arekitanga, ngā hapu, ngā whānau o tuwharetoa. There are three parts to that: te tumu whakapūmau, the enduring and validated foundation. It talks of holding fast to the prestige and life essence of the home people, of the hapu and of the ariki. Te pai roa, I believe, is a type of korowai, or it's also the beam that goes across the marae veranda. Ko te amo rangi ki mua tu atu, our spiritual figurehead is in front and stands forthright. He tapu te tū o te tangata, the sanctity of the standing of the person, and he mana kei roto I te kōrero, the integrity of what's been spoken. Me tū rangatira, truth and a correct and true path, and aroha ki te tangata manaki, providing mana enhancing or aroha recognition to people. So that's those combined make up the tikanga-based approach that we took to the catchment development. The values that were identified in the document. We took a number of principles from the Settlement Act itself, the principle of Māori, the principle of mana, principle of te whanake, which is sustainable development, and the principle of integrated management. There are a number of other values from Te Ao Māori, including our Pou e Toru, and a range of treaty principles of active protection, participation, and partnership. The vision that we put forward in the draft catchment plan is to adopt the vision that Tuwharetoa put into their Settlement Act, which is for a healthy Taupō catchment that is capable of sustaining the whole community and that is managed in a manner that reflects Ngāti Tuwharetoa tikanga. I want to go through the, as mentioned earlier by Marley, the process of identifying issues was through a literature review of existing documentation, including the settlement and deed of settlement. Things like the Taupō action plan, the regional plan, district plan, the tribunal reports. They all, and other planning documents, all were included in that literature review. So there was quite a body of work previously that we could draw on. And those identified the issues that we then put into the Ngā Paue Toru framework. So I'm going to speak to the summary on a page document, which is on page 51 of the agenda. Alternatively, you can follow the detailed tables of issues, objectives, and outcomes that start on page 46 of the agenda. So in terms of the summary, the first Ngā Paue Toru is mainly about the way the catchment is to be managed. The issues that were identified were a lack of effective partnership, little recognition of tikanga, a failure to integrate Ngā Paue Toru into resource management, a misalignment of planning, and limited regard for te ariki and arikitanga and catchment management decision making. Our outcomes were mainly around providing greater involvement to hapu in those planning and management decisions, ensuring that decisions exercise mana whakahaere and kaitiakitanga, the relationship ngā hapu o Ngāti Tūwhare Tō have with their taonga tuku iho, which is the entire environment within the catchment, is recognised and upheld. Ngā Paue Toru is reflected in planning and decision making, and Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki is recognised and provided for in the resource management planning and related decisions. Te Whanake talks about sustainable development. The protection of natural and physical resources can impede their use. So it's finding how to work through those two at times competing interests. We need to ensure that our resource management remains sustainable and integrated, that te oranga o te taiao and the values of te taiao are protected. The use of natural and physical resources meets the needs without compromising their Māori. Sustainable development outcomes are realised through both statutory and non-statutory planning decisions and activity. And a new one that came through in the second round of feedback was including in one of the related matters the importance of infrastructure supporting community health and well-being, but that infrastructure needs to be designed and operated to meet community needs and to minimise the risk of failure, but without compromising the Māori of te taiao. Kaitiakitanga, intergenerational sustainable guardianship, protection of ngā taonga tuku iho, cultural connections remain intact and strengthened. The mana of hapu remains strong. Hapu are exercising their kaitiakitanga over their taonga. Things like the use of rāhui and other traditional resource management practices are recognised and available for use. Taniwha and kaitiaki or spiritual guardians are respected and protected by maintaining, restoring and enhancing an associated resource was another objective under kaitiakitanga. And the holistic approach of integrated catchment management was encapsulated in the notion of toro whānui, where the ki uta ki tai approach to resource management, that whole of system, whole integrated management approach is required, and is reflected in the way that the Kaupapa Kaitiaki is implemented. The second pou, te mātapuna o te wai, te ahi tāmau, which talks about the health and well-being of lakes, waterways, geothermal resources and the surrounding environment. Te oranga me ngā hua o te taiao, the health and benefits of the environment. We need to have a healthy environment and supporting ecosystems with an enhanced capacity to sustain life. And decisions account for the value provided by ecosystem services. Ngā taonga tuku iho, decisions about Lake Taupo and their geothermal resource recognise and provide for their iconic taonga status and national significance, so that the mana of hapu and their taonga is strengthened and community enjoyment and pride in the lake and geothermal features are maintained and improved. Taurima, to treat with care, to tend, to foster. This is about the relationship between land, water and biodiversity. We want Indigenous biodiversity to increase. The guardianship status of landowners hold over Indigenous biodiversity is recognised. Māori landowners retain their ability to use their lands. A reduction of pest, plants and animals, strengthened Indigenous ecosystems, reduced impact of pest, plants and animals, reduced lake weed, algae and slimes that impact the use and enjoyment of Lake Taupo. Te waiora me ngā mahi ngā kai, the life-giving waters and customary food gathering, so very much around improving water quality, improved life-supporting capacity of water bodies, reduced nitrogen, reduced nutrient discharge, reduced pathogen levels, improved ecological health and well-being of Indigenous species and trout fisheries, places for safe swimming, safe drinking and the safe taking of kai are improved, appropriate levels of water and allocation, linking to te mano o te wai, that water and water bodies in the Taupo catchment are managed in accordance with the hierarchy and principles of te mano o te wai. So preparing for that freshwater management work that's aligning to the NPSFM. A clear vision for the Taupo water bodies developed by ngā hapu o tūwharetō, and appropriate access to water bodies for traditional activities. Kia whakarite, this is about providing for coverage of vulnerability from a range of natural hazards and the impact of climate change. So we need to ensure that planned responses to natural hazards and climate change protect the health and safety of people and communities. There is a growing understanding of the risks associated with natural hazards and the impacts of climate change, so more information. Future development decisions respond to natural hazards and climate change risks, and decisions respond to the need for a low carbon future. The third pou, te tūwhare tō te iwi, tūwhare tō te hapu. There are three components here. Te oranga o te tangata, so improving the social and economic indicators, including employment, housing, health, education, and social development. One of the sort of unique approaches taken in this catchment plan is to include the sort of community health and well-being. It's not just about the environment, but the people that reside and communities within the catchment. And we want to be able to increase the opportunities for social development and economic prosperity. Many of these things will sit outside the statutory planning processes and will be part of the work around influence on LTP and non-statutory activity. Recreation and tourism was another area here. We want those activities to continue, and we want functions, features, and ecosystems of the natural environment to be protected as well. The final one under this PO, kia mōhio, so more information to know and understand. Improved monitoring for better informed decisions, improved hapu knowledge and understanding of resource management, increased hapu involvement in catchment science and monitoring, and the integration of mātauranga Māori into natural and physical resource management. On the right-hand side of the summary on the page is the process, beginning with the vision and then moving through to the joint committee. Identifies the purpose, which is promoting sustainable and integrated management, provide for the relationship of Ngāti Tūwhareto and respect Ngāti Tūwhareto tikanga. Develop the Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki catchment plan. That plan needs to be recognised and provided for in statutory plans like the RPS, the regional plan and the district plan. And also be given particular regard to in local government planning through the LTPs and annual plans of both councils. Picking up on the point just before I faded out, discussion around the implementation plan. That was part of the feedback that we received in both rounds on, because it was a high level plan, there was a need to there was a desire for a number of our key stakeholders to see a bit more prescription or detail around how things are going to be recognised and provided for and given particular regard to. Because we're not able to provide methods or rules, we decided to take the implementation plan approach, where that will be a subsequent piece of work where the actions and related activities around implementation of the plan would take place through that implementation phase. And that would be one of the requests was from some of our stakeholders was to be involved in that implementation plan. I guess that's one of the decisions that the committee would need to express their opinion on.
Hapai Tūtahanga, thank you for focusing in on that implementation part, given that's what was raised by Kathy. And just to close that one off, Kathy, if you have a look at page 35 and page 47 of the agenda, that will show you exactly where in the draft plan we refer to the implementation plan being developed as part 2. Look, Tūtahanga, we will skip straight to the recommendations because we are about to lose quorum. So If there aren't any further questions from the committee, and like I said right at the beginning, this isn't new. You've had it a number of times now. It's now packaged together in your agenda. It outlines the process, what we've done so far in the draft plan for public consultation. And so we might just put the recommendations up on the table and test them. Hapai?
Let's do that.
So the recommendations are that the report be received, that the joint committee acknowledge and receive the alternative analysis report that is attached to the agenda, that Te Kōpu Kānapanapa approve the draft Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki for public consultation, and that the joint committee approves the public consultation that is set out in the report. Essentially a month of public consultation kicking off on the 4th of July, and that you also approve a set of hearing procedures that is also within your agenda. So those are the decisions we're asking you to make today. Thank you.
Can I have a move it? Okay, well, I'll move it.
I'll go to the second.
David, second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? Thank you very much for that. It's a major resolution, and I thank the presenters again. And yeah, thank you everybody.
Tēnā koe, George, and my apologies for the mishap earlier.
Okay, bye. We used to having mishaps with this virtual technology. I do it all the time.
I'll take my leadership.
Thank you, Riari.
Ngā mihi kia koutou. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou.
So, was there anything else?
That's it.
Riari, before you go, can you give us a closing karakia?
Oh. That's why you said more.
Just do it properly. Anyway.
Nā rei tēnei te mihi kia tātou. Tēnei te mihi kia tātou e kuhuhu mai nei no te tēnei reo karanga o te kōpu a Kānapanapa. Mihi ingia nei kia tātou e whai haere tēnei kaupapa. Nā reira tēnā koutou I rungi te auraha whakapono māramatanga me te rangi Māori tanga I hoa me tara te waitiku I Ukaraiti. Nā nei āke nei. Āme. Kia ora.